telling me that you would go back and review all 21,000 videos yourself?
Someone in my office or myself, yeah.
Well, then she needs to get another attorney because I'm not going to push this case out more than 60 days. I'm going to grant the motion in part to continue the case for 60 days. Give me a trial date now because it's going to go on the docket. And if you're not going to continue with your appearance, then I'll want to know after I set the date. And then I'll provide additional time for Ms. Ferriter to find an attorney who can work within the schedule that the court's going to impose in this matter.
Judge, I didn't finish my argument, but if you don't want me to finish.
No, you don't need to finish it.
And I'm stating in 35 years experience, I don't believe any lawyer can be competent in the court's time that you're giving us. So on that, based on that, I'd like to move to withdraw then, Judge. I cannot do this.
All right, so I'm going to allow you to withdraw because I'm not going to force you to do something you don't think you can do, but I reject your argument that no lawyer could be prepared for this case in 3 months.
That was Tracy Ferriter's attorney, back and forth with the judge, out of the case. Who is Tracy Ferriter? She's the mother of the teenage boy who was locked in that box in the garage. 8x8 box with a camera, a mattress, and a bucket. Now, her husband, Timothy Ferriter, has already been convicted. He's locked up. Not doing well, by the way, trying to get out on bond pending appeal. He's not faring well behind bars, trust me. But he's locked up in a box himself. It's called jail, it's called prison. So what's the case against Tracy? What is some of the evidence? Well, during the course of his trial, we heard and saw some things related to Tracy Ferriter as well. So let's take a listen to Tracy Ferriter here getting into an argument or yelling at the victim, her son in this case, her adopted son. And then we'll take a listen to the victim himself talk about some of his own bad behavior. Let's watch.
Do you have pajamas? Are those them right there? Do you hear me? Oh, here we go. Back to this where you can't talk. You're a middle school boy. You want to do all these things. You want to do chess. You want to do things. But you can't talk because you got caught being dishonest. Okay. Well, that's fine. I guess I'll just keep giving you more chances. Every day, a new chance for even though doesn't care, he doesn't want to be nice to anyone. Oh, let's let do this. Oh, let's let me bring some food because I think he's gonna have a good night. Oh, let me do everything for okay. Oh, can't talk because he got in trouble because he got caught. It's like, give me a break. Start owning up to what you're doing, and then try to fix the problem, like we keep telling you.
You'd agree that when you were at their house, you would rip things and throw things?
Yes.
And I think in your words, you intentionally broke the rules you knew about at least 5 times a week?
Usually more, but yes.
Do you remember putting your finger and thumb and pushing up on a boy's throat and pushing him up against the wall at Immaculate Heart?
Yes.
And there was some instances of stealing at Immaculate Heart?
Yes.
You were mad at
Yes.
and you had pretended that a teacher told you that it was okay to, you went into classroom, right?
Yes.
And her teacher was Miss McCoy, if you remember?
Yes.
And you told Miss McCoy that you were allowed to make an announcement, right?
Yes.
And the announcement that you made was really derogatory towards your sister?
Yes.
And you went to his house, right?
Yes.
And you pretended to tutor her, or were you actually tutoring her?
I actually tutored her.
Yeah. And you stole her dad's credit card?
I stole I just memorized the numbers, that's it.
And then you used his credit card?
Yeah.
Do you remember offering a beer?
Yeah.
Yeah. And was that so you could conduct an experiment?
Yes.
How old was at the time?
Was 4.
4?
Yeah.
It's fair to say a 4-year-old should not be drinking beer that could hurt them?
That was the point of the experiment.
Okay, Tracy Ferriter, huge hearing coming up on January 16th. That trial date is looming. The judge wants to try the case, but she's got to get a new lawyer first, and that lawyer's not going to have a ton of time. You know, maybe 40 days to get ready for this trial. Hundreds of hours of surveillance, video and recordings that exist, etc. Let's bring back in our think tank Larry Uretzian, Lori Murray, and Ben Chu. In the trial of Timothy Ferriter, and I thought it was a mistake, he didn't testify. He never got up on the stand and told the jury why they built the box. He didn't explain the mindset and explain in detail what they had actually done to try to help their son, and try to explain why they didn't want their son institutionalized. And this was the only way to, and this is their side of the story. They felt like if they reported it and brought in law enforcement, he's going to get locked up, he's going to be institutionalized. They didn't want that for their son, but they wanted to protect the other children because they felt he was dangerous. Obviously a bad choice, but it was never explained. There was no connection with why a parent would do that. The jury got to see the box, and they heard from the victim, but they look at the box. You look at the box and say, why is one child in the box, everybody else is inside in the $1 million house down in Palm Beach County? Ben Chu, do you think Tracy Ferriter, when she does go to trial, may think about testifying after watching her husband sit there and then be found guilty very quickly and sent away to prison?
Yes, Vinny, I think she will learn from that mistake. I think you're absolutely right. She has to explain herself, and she's going to have to explain that video and audio that we heard, because that doesn't portray her in the most sympathetic light.
Yeah, I've spoken, Laura, to another mom who went through something very similar, had a child with a similar condition as the victim in this case, and she said there was no way, it was impossible to have that child in the house, and the only solution ended up being that child gets institutionalized. And how does Tracy Ferriter try to explain that to the jury? Because they didn't do it. They just, the jury never got that firsthand feeling of what these parents say they were going through. Now, I don't know how much is legit, but they didn't even put it out there like firsthand. You know what I mean, Laura? Like, this is the type of case. You're locking your kid in a box, you need to explain it. Otherwise, we're just going to lock you in a box.
Which is exactly what happened with Tim, right? And I think Tracy can take the witness stand and explain it. Because I think what's evident is these people, the parents, do care about this boy. I don't think it was done in a vicious way. I think they just couldn't control him, but the jury didn't really hear it. They got bits and pieces of it. We had, as you just showed us earlier, the boy himself testifying about certain things that he'd done, how he would get in trouble and how he pushed a boy against the wall with his finger on his throat, how he gave his 4-year-old sister as an experiment to see how she was going to do beer. So there were a number of things. And yes, of course, he could have gotten in trouble with the law and could have been institutionalized. And these people were trying to potentially help him. But maybe the jury, like you said, needed to hear that. The defendant.
I needed to hear it, for goodness sake.
I agree. They weren't humanized. They just never explained
Lori,
themselves. I mean,
it's a box. It's 8 by 8. It's 8. I mean, that picture's there. It's clear. No parent on that jury would ever consider doing that. You need to explain it, like face to face. Tell me if you've got some reasonable explanation for this.
I think the problem that you're going to find is that when you try to explain this box, you're talking about them living in $1 million house and their child with a bucket in a box with no air conditioning, or them controlling the air conditioning. So I don't know that there's any way that you can adequately explain that. I know they went through a lot. I know that this child was a problem child, but the conditions of that box with the amount of money that they had could have been much better, and that's where the problem is, and that's why they won't take the stand. And I listened to them talk about not being able to be ready for trial, and I absolutely agree that judges sometimes don't give us enough time to prepare adequately for trial. And in this case, how long does it take to prepare for a plea? Like, you've seen your husband go to prison. Why are you taking this to trial? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's going to be a repeat. It's going to be a repeat. Hey, by the way, folks, get ready here on Court TV for True Crime Super Tuesday. Tracy Ferriter hearing 8:30 a.m. Sarah Boone 9 a.m. Oh, wait a minute. The attorney has, since this all happened, filed for a stay. So we'll see if Sarah Boone actually happens. You know what happens with that case. Adam Montgomery, 9 a.m. Alec Murdoch, 9:30 a.m. Robert Tellis at 12:30. And then the protesters in the Karen Reed case up in Massachusetts at 2:30. Big day right here on your front row seat to justice.